Good morning, this is Kevin Reed. I'm the state partner for First LEGO League, which makes me the, I guess, the guy that you probably have to get answers from if you're new to this whole thing, or at least I'm the best place to start. This is our last coach training session of the 2011 season. I hope you're here to learn about coaching a team, or if you have coached before, you're back to brush up on your skills. There's been a number of changes in how FLL operates this year, so if you have some experience in the past, this is a good way to kind of get an update on what's going on. Before we get too far, though, I'm going to give you a few hints on using the GoToMeeting interface. If you haven't done this before, you've done an online webinar, I'm going to give you a couple pointers just so you can grab my attention. We're using the webinar version, which means that everyone stays in mute mode, and I just kind of chatter away here for an hour and a half, and then hopefully you guys stay awake and keep, or at least I keep you awake anyway. And but if along the way you have a question and you need my attention, you can do one of two things. You can type a question in your chat interface down here. For those of you who are on the phone, this is obviously not going to work so well, but you can always send me an email later. But if you are using the GoToMeeting interface, you can type a chat question here, and I'll see it on my screen. I may not indicate that I've got the question right away, but I'll usually stop as soon as I can and read the question to the crowd, try not to embarrass you, and then answer it if it's relevant. If I don't answer right away, I'll eventually get to it. Either I'll send you a typed message later when I take a break, or sometime afterward I'll even send you an email. But if you want to talk, if you need to speak directly to the crowd, or you think something's relevant verbally, then you can raise your hand. That's the symbol up here that I have circled, and I'll see that on my interface also, and then I will unmute you so you can speak to everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody in the group here in case you're having trouble or you have any questions, and then after that we'll just forge ahead. I'll remute everybody, and then we'll continue forward. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to unplug everybody. You'll notice a lot of background noise, frankly, which is why we mute everyone, because there's usually kids and dogs and dishes and things, and my voice gets echoed. Okay, so right now everyone is live. If you have a microphone, I can hear you. Does anyone have questions they want to raise at this point before we get started? Any technical problems? This is your moment. All right. Maybe everybody's in Sunday brunch coma already. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone again. So you're back off, and now the only way to get my attention is to raise your hand or to type a question in the chat window. I should also let you know we're recording this session today so that people that missed one of our 11 coach sessions can listen to this later. So with all that behind us, and with hopefully no other technical questions, I'm going to go ahead. And I would also like to iterate, I know there is one person at least calling in by phone. So if you can't see the screen, these presentation slides will be available online right after the presentation. There is a version up there now. It's slightly out of date. I made some changes this morning, so I'll get this posted as soon as we're finished. So I hope you're here for FLL, which is First LEGO League. It's a group of kids, 9 to 14-year-olds, doing robot missions and a project related to a theme every year. If you're not here for that, then this may be relatively more boring than the standard folk. And I want to spend a little time just introducing you to First, especially if you're new to the whole thing, where FLL fits in the First universe, and hopefully what we hope you'll get out of it. And then I'll spend the bulk of our time talking specifically about FLL, coaching, mentoring, working with the kids, technology, etc. So briefly, I do want to talk a little bit about where First came from. It was put together by a man named Dean Kamen. He's the guy that invented the Segway scooter, which is what most people would recognize as his invention. He's a well-known inventor in the medical community, lives back in New Hampshire, knows how to fly helicopters, and does all kinds of amazing things, but he's one of his probably most long-lasting achievements is First. He put this together with some friends from MIT. It started out as an impromptu design competition for some high school kids, and then has grown into this massive organization, which I'll describe a little bit more detail next. It is, like all things that have engineers and scientists involved, an acronym. First stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. The program is spread all over the world. There's now 4 chunks of it based on the age of the kids, which I'll explain in just a sec. But do understand that FLL is really a subsection of the First organization, and the real goal is to get more students involved in science technology at the earliest age possible so that we get more technical folk out in the world. Even if they're not practicing their art, at least they'll understand technology and its role in society. And but ultimately we hope that they'll choose science and engineering as a career path, and by introducing them early, hopefully we'll inspire them and get them headed that way. So this is a breakdown very quickly, this slide of the 4 programs that are in FIRST. The first and oldest is FRC, which started in '92. It's for high school kids. We have about 100 FRC programs in the state of Washington now. Teams. They're in high schools all over the state from one corner to the other. It started in '92 in New Hampshire, but it made its way to Washington in 2000. And so there are some teams here with very low numbers that they get a number and they get to keep it in FRC. We have, I think the lowest team number is 360 down in Bellarmine, Tacoma. And a lot of the volunteers in FIRST these days started out on FRC, the early FIRST FRC teams. Subsequent to that was FLL about 6 years later, which is the program you're here to hear about. And it's been around since '98. So we're entering, coming up on our 13th season year. And there's now approximately 18,000 FLL teams in the world, and it grows substantially every year, including in our state. The FTC program is a high school program for high school kids, but it's not as involved as FRC. It's smaller robots. It uses the FLL NXT brick instead of the embedded wireless robot controller in the FRC program. So just to be aware that there are 2 high school programs that involve robotics. One is smaller than the other. And then finally the newest member is Junior FLL, which only started a few years ago, and that's now starting to take off like FLL did. This is only for 6 to 9-year-old kids. So the goal of this slide is to show that there are 4 programs that cover the continuum of education, basically from kindergarten all the way through graduating from high school. First is 501c3, as you might imagine, but recently they've got 85,000 volunteers is the count. Also, again, spread all over the place. 3,000 companies helping FIRST proceed, which include NASA, Motorola, Microsoft, Google, pretty much every high-tech heavyweight out there, and a lot of companies you've never heard of, but probably use their technology in every day. And because Dean is from New Hampshire, that's where the headquarters are. So you may see email or letters from New Hampshire, and that's why. That's where the HQ is. This slide here, for the folks that can't see, this is a pictorial view of what FIRST does. This row on the bottom is just the grades from kindergarten through 12, but it's to give you an idea of what the programs look like. So starting in Junior FLL, you can see that we have the kids build a little moving model, and they do a poster related to the Junior FLL theme. Junior FLL and FLL use the same basic theme. Junior FLL's is usually a little different. This year they're doing Snack Attack, and FLL is doing the Food Factor. So you can see that the name is related, but it's not quite the same thing. The Junior FLL don't do robotics. They do just a moving model with a motor. FLL is the first robotics program where the kids are actually programming a robot. And then as you get into the tech challenge, the robots get bigger. They're made with erector set parts. I say they're about the size of a microwave oven, but they use the NXT brick just like FLL. They're writing the code for the robot in C, though, not in NXT-G. Or they can use G, but typically they use an actual procedural programming language like C. And then finally, there's the first robotics competition where the robots get to be about human-sized, and they compete on about half of a basketball court size field. Much larger, much more energetic, a lot more danger. The field is surrounded by bulletproof Lexan, so it's a great deal of excitement, and it took up the entire Quest Convention Center last year. It's a really big deal. And so this is what the kids can look forward to as they get through the programs. I've got a question here from one of the attendees a few minutes ago asking if this presentation is applicable to Junior FLL, and the answer is not really. If you want to do Junior FLL, you should talk to Willem. Willem Schulten is the Junior FLL partner. I don't think he's doing coach trainings like this yet because he just started this year, but this will probably be way more than you need for Junior FLL. So let me hang on just a second. Christine, I'm going to unmute you. Hang on just a moment, please. Christine, can you talk with the microphone?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So yeah, if you want Junior FLL, this is probably going to take up a lot more of your time than is necessary. There's a lot of detail here that won't apply to you.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay. I don't want you to feel like you can, and you will learn some things that might help with coaching and with kids. But Junior FLL is completely different than what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that was a good example of someone raising their hands. And then I've got another question about contact information for Willem. I do. I'm sorry, folks. We got a couple of Junior FLL coaches that were looking for help, and so give me just a moment to help them out. I'm going to type Willem's email address into our chat interface. Just give me just a moment, please. So I just sent Willem Schulten's first WA email address into the chat window. You should all see it in your GoToMeeting interface as a response from me. And so you can copy and paste that into an email. You can also get this email address from the website, firstwa.org website. Okay, any more questions about Junior FLL? Anybody else need to ask questions before we continue? Okay, moving on. So that's a pictorial view of the 4 programs, just so you can get an idea what the robots look like. So now that I've talked about FIRST, I'm going to talk about FIRST WA, and for anyone who can see the screen, probably figure out that I'm part of the organization FIRST Washington that hosts all the FIRST program competitions and does things like these seminars for the FIRST teams that form the state. Just very briefly, we support all the FIRST programs, all 4 of them. That's not true in many states. There's usually separate committees for each, and we sort of have that structure here where we have people that are responsible for each program, but we all operate together. We share resources and volunteers, which is not true of a number of other states. So if you want to transition from one program to the other, you're basically talking to the same people. We are also a 501c3 operating under the Seattle Robotics Association. That's about to change to a new group called Washington First Robotics. The only reason I'm telling you this is that you may see receipts and things from us, and so if it says Seattle Robotics Association, that's why, because we use the 501c3 umbrella from the group that originally started First Washington. We're all volunteers. It's another key factor. I'm telling you that because if you're wondering why sometimes our emails take a while to get back to you, or you never hear from us, it's because most of us have day jobs and we get a little overwhelmed this time of year especially as the team counts have grown over the years. So please be patient with us, but do understand that no one is waking up at 8 in the morning, getting to work at 8 in the morning to start answering email. Most of us are doing it at night. And as the season comes to an end, you'll see a lot more emails at 2 in the morning and a lot of other insane things happening. But hopefully you'll get the information you need and you can keep going. So that's First Washington as a subset of FIRST, and hopefully that was a brief enough introduction. You're not already asleep, but hopefully I can keep you awake long enough to get to the FLL stuff, which is what's next. So I want to spend what may feel like a little bit more time than necessary talking about FLL core values and a few things from the coach manual, but after that we'll get into the nuts and bolts stuff, which is hopefully more interesting. But I do linger a bit on core values because especially this year it's very important. And I'm going to do that by reminding you that the core values of FLL are right on the inside of the cover of the coach manual. Hopefully you have a coach manual in your hands, or if you don't, you're going to get yours very soon. It should have come in a padded envelope from FIRST by regular mail, and if you don't have it and you're a coach and you've got a team, make sure that you let me know you don't have it so we can get one for you. But most importantly, it has these things that we want you to focus on with the kids during the season. Specifically, and I'd like to believe most importantly, that you're going to teach the kids how to work together as a team to solve tough problems. And that's a big tenet of FIRST, is that we're teaching the kids that they can achieve much more in much shorter time when they're working with other people on the same thing. The tendency at the age of the kids in these programs is they want to do it all by themselves and they don't want to work together, and we want to get them out of that habit. And I know especially around in my school district there's a lot of emphasis on team projects and getting the kids working together, because ultimately that really does solve the big stuff, and most of the problems we face these days are large. So learning teamwork is important, and it's easy to pay lip service to it, but it's really true. And I manage a whole bunch of people, and engineers included, and none of the problems we have to solve would get done by one person. So the second thing is we want you as a coach or a mentor not to feel like you need to solve anything for the kids, and in fact it's prohibited in FLL. Your job is to guide the kids along but not do the work for them. They do all the work, and it's important that not only do they do all the work, but they all get to do some of the work. We want the kids to work on the robot, and we want the kids to work on the project. Don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, but the idea is that all the facets of FLL require input from all the students on the FLL team. So, but don't resist the urge, especially you technical folks out there, dive in and do robot programming for your students the last week before the competition. Let them figure this out, and we'll talk in great detail about that later, but this is important for you to know, especially if you're worried about having technical background, because that's not the point here. So we want you guys also to know that you're going to make mistakes alongside the students, and that that's okay. You do not have to know everything, especially as a rookie coach. This entire season should just be a learning experience for you and your students. And by that I mean not learning about robots and projects and everything else, just learning how to be an FLL team. Start off from the beginning not expecting to do awesome things and to walk away with the championship. It can happen, and I don't want to dissuade you from working hard, but at the same time, set your expectations to a level where you're not going to be hugely disappointed if you don't have a huge Lego trophy at the end of the season. The ultimate goal here is for the kids to learn stuff and to become better team members and teammates, to learn some self-respect for themselves and each other, and to walk away with some technical expertise and hopefully some inspiration. It's not about getting awards necessarily. That's just kind of icing on the cake stuff. So try to stay focused on the important stuff and not worry about getting too caught up in the mechanics of running an FLL team efficiently. One of the key things also we want the kids to learn is that the FLL competition is not the same as a lot of competitive sports, in the sense that there's got to be a definite winner and loser. And I know it's easy to, again, pay lip service to this sort of idea that everybody wins, and that's certainly not true. And we have awards and we have competitions because it's a motivator and gets kids excited and hopefully stirs up their adrenaline a little bit and gets them pointed toward a milestone like the competition dates. But at the same time, we want them to see that there's mutual benefit from not only working with their team members, but learning things from other teams that they can build on and being successful because they're standing on the shoulders of others. And so these competitions are not about crushing the opponent under the wheels of your robot. It's not about, we don't want to encourage teams, of course, to do anything dastardly so they can be the winner. I know there are teams that take this very seriously and really want to win, and that's great. At the same time, though, again, keep in mind the higher purpose here. And so we want teams, for example, if one team can't compete because their battery's dead and they just don't have the resources or forgot to throw the battery, or bad things happen to good teams, you'll see at first competitions very often a team will go up and hand them their extra battery or do whatever they can to make sure they are able to compete at the competition because they understand the real purpose of first. And another example is we had a team one year that started very late. They were in a very difficult situation for various reasons, and they showed up at the competition with a bucket of Legos. They didn't even have a robot built. And two other very experienced teams adopted them, helped them build a robot, and got them competing by the end of the competition within a few hours. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to see at a first competition. This next line about discovering and its importance, I like to rephrase is, in the words of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, the journey is more important than the destination, which he probably stole from somebody else, but I never researched who. But again, the important thing here is that the competition is the end result of all this hard work, and the hard work was really the important part. So keep the kids focused on all they've done. And again, I manage engineers, and they are doing complex and difficult things that I see middle school-aged students doing. I mean, they're working on autonomous robotics. That's pretty dang cool. And you got a 10-year-old child who can do looping and have sensor interaction with a fully integrated robotic controller. I stand and marvel at that. And so keep them focused on what they've managed to pull off in a few weeks. One of the key tenets also of FLL is sharing your experiences with other people. You're in fact evaluated on it with your project presentation, and so the tendency for lots of folks in the technical world especially is to do these great things but stay locked in their cube and never tell anybody about them. So we wanted to teach the kids that they have to find the larger social benefit of their efforts. And frankly, from an economic standpoint, there's lots of benefit from that. We want people to make great discoveries, but we want them to share so that we can all figure out what to do with them and turn them into a product that makes mankind generally better. So we do that in FLL by evaluating teams on not only their discoveries, but how well they tell your community about them. And we have examples of students, student FLL teams, finding things that end up in millions of dollars in savings or new inventions. It's pretty rare, and I'm not saying that we expect our teams to all show up with a patent or anything, but keep in mind that that's possible, and that's kind of the brass ring you should be aiming for, that we want the kids to discover something cool. And we want them to share that with the community so that mankind in general can benefit. FIRST has taken the route of trademarking a few of its phrases that emerged up out of the last 20 years or so. One is gracious professionalism, and the other is cooperation. I can barely say them without smirking because they're starting to sound like marketing themes. However, gracious professionalism, also fondly known as GP around the first world, I'll explain in just a moment. Cooperation is generally just that we want the kids to cooperate. And these are the official core values, so I have them up there. But I do want you to just be aware that those are terms you might hear again. And of course, last but least, is the teams are supposed to have a good time, and so are the coaches and mentors. And if you're not, or your team is not, then something has gone horribly wrong, and you need to let me know about it, because I will help you solve it. We have done this, many of us, and I say we because there's lots of volunteers besides myself working on FLL, including a lot of the experienced coaches and mentors who really want you guys as rookie coaches to have a good time, have fun, enjoy the experience, and then come back next year. And if you're not having a good time, or the team's falling apart, or there's Legos on the floor and there's wheels in your hair, etc., then we can get it fixed. I have yet to fail to help a team get along that wanted to succeed that couldn't, and so we can help you, but don't wait too long to raise the white flag and ask for help. And I'll give you my email address at the end, and I'm happy to jump in or get somebody to help jump in. In fact, it would probably be a coach from another team to get you going. And there are, by the way, 320 plus teams in the state of Washington, so it's very likely you have a neighbor somewhere within 10 driving miles of you that can come to your rescue, or you can go to one of their meetings and see what they're up to. But for heaven's sakes, have a good time doing FLL, because it is supposed to be fun. Again, I know I labored on this a bit, but it's really important stuff. So keep in mind all this stuff about core values. Okay, so I got a question here about the coach manual that I mentioned a minute ago before I started on my diatribe here from Tracy, and the question was, do co-coaches receive the manual or just the primary coach? The answer is just the primary coach. You got one printed copy. If you need to get access to it, they don't make it public, the manual. There have been some copycat type programs over the years, so they don't put like the PDF up of the coach manual. The first 3 chapters, however, are available online on the FLL webpage, and I can show you where that is later if you like. And you can also of course borrow the coach manual, your printed coach manual, from your coach. And if that's difficult to do, let me know, and we can see. Sometimes we can get spare copies, but not always. So Tracy, let me know if that did not answer your question. Okay. As promised, I've got a quick slide on gracious professionalism. It actually has lots of bullets, but I boil it down to 2. One is respect. We want the kids to compete against the problem, which are the missions in the project, but respect the people on the team and themselves. And I won't belabor this, but it is worthy of noting this. You'll hear gracious professionalism mentioned quite a bit, and the idea is that we really do want to make these kids into prototype professionals that will enter the workforce someday as technically skilled folk that know how to interact with others and solve problems. And then the second thing, as I mentioned already, is mutual gain. We want the kids to also not get in this habit of the not invented here that a lot of technical folks get into. We want them to understand the benefit of using other people's ideas, their team members, other teams, etc., to their mutual gain, because we don't want to have to start from scratch and reinvent electricity and handwriting and rocket propulsion. We want to know that those things already exist and plug them in when we need them. And so we want the kids to understand that, the importance of that, as early as possible. There is a tendency for all of us to want to do it ourselves, and that's just not feasible anymore. We need to work with other people and use other people's ideas to move forward. So I've hammered on this a lot, and I have to do it one more time. This is the coach's promise, which is page 2 of your coach manual. And I shouldn't say have to. I choose to put these in here because I want to make sure we run through them. When you open the manual and you see it, I don't want you to freak out or anything. And there is a little bit of restatement here, but they put this in just this year, or at least this is the first year I've noticed it in there. the key things for you to remember as a coach or as a co-coach is that the children come first. And at the end of the day, this is really just supposed to help them out. And if that's not happening for various reasons, the environment or the program or their unhappiness or whatever, you gotta remember FLL second and the kids are first, and you gotta sort out the kid problems first. And that, as I mentioned before, the kids are going to do all the work, and that you have to resist all temptation to jump in and do it for them. There's no grade on FLL. There's no real stakes here. There's no college entry scholarships or anything. You're supposed to just get the good stuff out and not worry about any of the bad stuff. So let them do it. Let them fail, because failing, if that's what's in their future, is sometimes a better lesson than winning. So let them do the work and let them make the mistakes, because that's where the learning is really going to happen. The other bullet here about the size of the team is just some reminders. The team can only have 10 students on it at max, and that's when you get to the competition. We only give you 10 badges. You can't bring 12 kids and plead and beg, because you have to get it down to 10. If your teams are greater than 10, you'll have to work out a way to bring only 10 to the competition, and that's an official FLL rule. You shouldn't have more than 10 even in the classroom. And unfortunately now the registration's closed, but if you have more than 10, you should register a second team. That's kind of the goal. Of course, we're not going to police it or anything, but just keep in mind that size 10 teams that are larger than 10 are a problem for the competition, and sometimes they're unruly in the class too. It's just hard to control that many kids. Although teachers do it with 30 plus, and I don't know how they do that. That's magic from my perspective. But anyway, the other thing is the age of the students. You can have kids on your team that are 15 as long as they were 14 in the year the challenge was released. In other words, if they were 14 any time in 2011, even January 1st at 12:01 a.m., they can compete. So we do have 15-year-old kids. I have to admit they get pretty bored, though. By the time they hit 15, they're really ready for FTC or FRC, the programs for the high school kids. And so if you have a lot of older students on your team, it's no problem as long as they were 14, but I'd start thinking about next year right away. Key thing for you and you're going to get reminded of this again, is to make sure your email address, the coach email address and the co-coach or assistant coach email address, is up to date on gofll.org or gofll.usfirst.org. And I'll cover all these links at the end. But the key is that I send everything to you by email. You'll get all the reminders, your competition assignments, your reminders about these sessions and everything based on this email address. And so if you don't update it in the database, I won't be sending you any email. And I get people that say, "Oh, could you add me to your mailing list?" The answer is no. I cannot manage a separate mailing list. Frankly, it's just beyond my brain bandwidth. So you've got to get your email address into the gofll.usfirst.org database. If you don't know how to do that, send me an email, and we have a person who's specifically dedicated to helping people get that sorted out. There are, last two bullets, there are updates on the website to the mission rules in the game and all this stuff, and those updates affect how we run our competitions in December. So it's your responsibility to help the kids know that they exist. It's their responsibility to manage the rules and changes, make sure that they understand, but you need to help them make the bridge between here's the website you got to go to and them actually reading it and making sure it happens. And then, of course, finally, we want the kids to stay focused on the core values, which I guarantee will not happen of their own motivation. You're going to have to help them see the core values and keep them focused on the journey and not the destination entirely. Okay, I'd like to believe this is the end of the part that would most likely put you to sleep. I show you now some startup information about your FLL team, which, again, since registration is closed, we're sort of past that, but I want you to be aware of the overall annual timeline of FLL. But it's also a good time to answer questions if you have any. So I can pause here for a moment. Oh, I already got a one typed question. Hold on just a second. I have a question about the tournament, and I'll talk about that in more detail later, but I'll hit this one real quick here. Carol's asking, 10 badges are issued for access to the competition. Can more kids attend as spectators? I have 13. I don't know if I can attend the competition. When do you turn in their names? Okay, so let's talk really briefly about the tournament. I'll talk in much more detail later. But the answer is absolutely the events are open to the public. You can bring as many kids as you want as spectators. The badges get them into the pits, which is where you guys work on your robots. Again, I'll tell you what that means in a minute. Anybody can be in the main competition area watching, but they can't be down on the floor near the robots or doing any of that stuff. And So everyone can attend. It's just that there will not be. We only recognize 10 team members. We don't print names on them. We just get badge 1 through 10. So it just means that only 10 kids can actually participate in the competition. The rest will have to definitely be spectators. Does that answer the question? Oh, and that goes for parents and adults and everything else too. Does that answer your question, Carol? Okay, good. All right, so let's talk about timeline. Got another question here from Tina. Can you add kids after you register if you have room on your team? Yes, absolutely. First, it does not keep track of what the names of the students are on the team. They only keep track of the coach and the mentor. So if you have 5 now and 10 by competition day, great. That's more kids that theoretically could head into science and engineering careers, and that's what we want to happen. Yeah, there's no prohibition on how you run your team. It's just about competition day. We only allow 10 students per team, and a lot of that actually has to do with capacity at the events. We scale up all the infrastructure so we can handle X amount of teams, assuming that they have no more than 10 kids on the team. So who is on your team is entirely up to you, as long as there's not more than 10 of them at the competition. Any other questions? Someone's probably madly typing away, but I'm moving on. Okay, so the season timeline. Mid-May through September, we have registration open, and I'm pointing this out now because many of you hear about this in September, like the last week of September, and you're rushing to get registered. If you like FLL and want to come back next year, you can register before school even ends this year. So registration opens the first week of May and ends at the end of September. The challenge, the food factor part this year, is released in early September, usually the first Friday of September. So next year, if you register in May, you'll have all summer to goof around with the kids or not, but you can get started in August setting up the room, getting a table built, maybe using last year's challenge pieces to do some practice, get the kids working on the robots, and you'll have all your team info, you'll get your coach manual in the mail, but you won't actually have the challenge until the first week of September. We do that, of course, to keep the program kind of self-contained between September and December, so it's all wrapped up and done by the end of the year. And then registration almost always closes the last week of September, usually the last day of September. Every once in a while, the velocity of the team registrations will be such that they outsell them and we have to end before September. That did not happen this year. It hasn't happened for a lot of years. I think they're doing a better job of forecasting, but just be aware sometimes it closes early. And then the actual season runs from the first week of September and then the state of Washington until the first week of December. So that's the time when you'll be working on your project presentation, your robot, and getting the team ready for the competition. And so now we're already 1 month into that process now officially. So you've got October and November left. You've only got 8 weeks, which always comes as a cold shock to many people, myself included. And then by December, that first weekend in December, we have 13 tournaments in the state of Washington spread from Spokane to Olympia. Many of them are on the east side. We have them pretty much everywhere now. So on that weekend, we do them all, and you have access to lots of other coaches and people at those events. There's usually a lot of engineers and judges too. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big festival. We do, however, this year we used to do the championships 1 week after the regional tournaments, but we don't do that anymore. We moved it into January. And there's 2 of them. There's one in West Washington and one in Eastern Washington now. So we, in fact, have 2 state championships so that the folks in Eastern Washington that have those big mountains in the way don't have to drive through the snow and the craziness. And so they have their own now, and we have the West one, and it's great. We're growing so much we needed them. And then finally, just so you know, there is an international expo in St. Louis. Last year was the first year we had them in St. Louis. They used to be in Atlanta, but they get all the first teams together from the high school down to junior FLL and do this big thing, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The Black Eyed Peas played this event last year. We had Morgan Freeman doing match calling. It is a huge spectacle. But for FLL, because there's so many teams, the states that get to send teams along only don't get to go every year. So it's not like winning the championship in your state automatically sends you. It's done by lottery. We don't usually know until closer to the end of the season. So we don't know if the January competition is the end for the state of Washington, or if the winning team will in fact go to the championships or the International Expo. Okay, I got a couple more questions. I'm going to hit those real quick. Can you add kids? Oh, I have a question from Linda. How many coaches are allowed in the pits? We usually, I think we give away 3 or 4 badges. We'll put a limit on it just because, again, the capacity. But I mean, if you have 5 coaches and mentors, that's fine. If you have 15, that's too many. So I have to admit that it's up to the people that are hosting the competition. And I'll talk a lot about the tournament day and all that stuff later. So feel free to ask the question, but I can get into those details in more scrutiny or with more granularity later. And then another question, regionals are on the 3rd. Do you have the West State date? I thought it was December 10th. The answer is no, Carol. It is December 3rd. And I will talk about that again quite a bit at the end. So if you want to hang on for specifics, they're coming. Okay, so if you don't know already, this is Food Factor, the challenge for 2011. They change every year, and that means the project goal changes and the field mission pieces change. And so every year that you do FLL, you'll get a new plastic map that goes on your 4x8 playfield. You'll get a bunch of bags of loose Legos that you and your students have to build into the mission pieces, and then the theme that the students are researching changes as well, the project presentation theme. We, of course, want you to spend time doing the science part in addition to the robot part. We want you to do the research and come up with the problem and solution for projects. We do want the kids to get something out of that process and gain some insight into how scientists and engineers do their thing. And so don't just get so focused on the robot stuff that you forget about the project. And ultimately, we also want them to meet some engineers. Many students don't ever get to meet an engineer in the wild as it is, and so we hope that they get to see what these people do for a living and pull back the veil a little and say, hey, this isn't so bad. This is kind of a cool thing. And this year with the Food Factor theme, there's lots of people you can talk to, health departments and all the rest, for the kids to meet up and see what's going on. So the challenge was released on the 2nd of September. We're going to be working on keeping food safe. The kids are going to be doing that sort of research. And then there are 15 robot missions to solve for the robot side. And there's a link here that is active. Again, if you download the presentation, you can follow it if you haven't already. And I hope you have if you have a team, because we need to be working on the challenge right away. I have another question. Let's see. We registered, but the school hasn't received the grant check yet, so we didn't purchase the robot or field kit. Are those still available? The answer is yes. I think you have until the 2nd week of October. And if you want to email me later, Ruth, we can get that sorted out. We have a partner manager, and a lot of times we can bridge the gap with the money to get you guys going. So by all means, email me later, and we can work out the mechanics of that so you guys get going as soon as you can. So there are 3 things that teams are evaluated on. Well, you're now down to the 8-week mark, or a little, actually, no, it's 8 weeks, to work on the 3 things that the judges are going to talk to you about at the competition. It's the project, which is research, figuring out how to present the research, and then practicing that presentation so that it's all polished up, ready to go. We have the robot game, which is what all those Lego parts are for, and then we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then new this year is core values judging. And if you're new to FLL, you won't know the difference, but we've never done this before. And if it may be a surprise to you, but the kids are getting these judge sessions in the morning at the competitions. Now there's going to be a 3rd one. There used to only be 2, project and robot design. But now we're going to see how well the kids develop as a team over the year by very likely doing a impromptu design session for a few minutes in the judge room. And the judges will ask the kids some questions and then help them kind of work through how they would solve a problem. And the idea is to see, do they work well together to solve problems? And so keep that in mind. I have to admit, it is the first year that we're doing this. It is an experiment for us, as much as I don't like to admit it, but we really, it's going to be a learning year for both of us, you and the first WA group. So be patient, and we'll do our best to make this painless for both of us. But anyway, just be aware that there are now 3 things we're evaluating, and the newest one is this core values thread. And there's rubrics for all this, which we'll talk about in a second. This is a bit of a review slide here, and as I mentioned, no more than 10 kids. If you only have 1 child on your team, that's not really a team, so we want to make sure you have more than 1 at least. 3 is really the considered minimum, but 2 does fit the definition of a team. 9 to 14 in the challenge year. And keep in mind that FLL teams don't have to be associated with school. In fact, about 1/3 of them are homeschool families, and they make them in their neighborhood, and they have kids from other families around or other homeschool groups. And we also go through churches, 4-H, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you name it. We've got FLL teams that form everywhere. So if you're it's a little bit past time now. We did starting doing these presentations in August, so some of these data are a little outdated considering that the registration is closed. But it is just for next year. If you're thinking about doing an FLL team separate from a school, that's certainly possible. The things that we really want the kids to focus on more specifically to building teamwork is working together, to take risks by designing and trying things out, and making mistakes and then starting over. And we call that iteration in the design world, so that very, very rarely does your first guess or your first attempt work. And in fact, usually it's 10 attempts or 15 or 20. And we want the kids at this age to learn that process because it's tough, even for adults, but I think most specifically for kids. If they blow it or something breaks or it doesn't work as they expect, they throw up their hands and say, well, forget it, I just can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the engineering brain, or whatever they want to say, and then they convince themselves in their minds that they have to stop and move on, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to learn that failure is okay because that's a teacher, and we're going to let the teacher have at us, and then we'll start over and take what we learned and start hopefully improve our design or improve our process and make some progress. So we have this loop here where we want them to take these risks, do it with their teammates, and understand that failure is not the end. It's just a step along the way. So be aware of this cycle for the sake of your kids and help them get past that first failure or maybe the 7th failure and continue making progress and improving their robot. And I highlight this because sometimes adults, we just know this, and the kids, they don't. And so you have to remember to remind them to do this. And then we've noticed over the years, and I say we as a lot of coaches and people in FIRST, I've noticed that kids that are at or under the age 11 tend to have a harder time with the iteration loop and recovering from failure. And just be aware that if your team is a lot of younger students, that you may have to spend more time focused on this. Kids that are over the age of 11 for various physiological and other developmental reasons sometimes do better with this. And so if you have a team with a bunch of older kids, you may not have to pound on this so hard. And if you have both young and old students, it may cause friction because the old kids just want to, they want to keep breaking stuff, and the young kids don't. And so just depending on your team makeup, kind of adjust your methods accordingly so that you are aware that this is there and prepare yourself. And then one of the key things in Lego League that get in the way of the team starting out smoothly is that a lot of the students that come to FLL really, really love Legos, and they have no desire at all to do a presentation. And they're going to want to stand in a corner or sit on the computer and start writing code for their robot, and A, not work as a team, and B, not even think about doing research. And although sometimes you get a bunch of kids on teams that have no interest in robots, and it's actually happened to me, as strange as it always occurs to me, but there are kids that really don't want to do any technology. They just want something. They're excited about the team aspects, or maybe they're artists, or they'd like to talk or whatever. And keep in mind that all these things are good things. You can channel them into different parts of FLL, which is why this competition is very different than a lot of other things. It's not just about robots. It's not just about presentations. It's not about being a business person or anything else. It's kind of everything. And so if you've got a diverse group, and many times that's better than if you have a bunch of Lego builders. And because the presentation side has a lot of visual and a lot of non-technical things to worry about, those kids are great for the presentation. You can have leaders and people that are kind of focused on each of the segments of FLL, but keep in mind that if the Lego builders just want to build Legos, you're going to have to steer them into the project one way or the other, because again, that's kind of a key point of the judge evaluations, but also that's a key part of the learning that we're hoping that they'll get. And in fact, we don't want them to just focus on Legos. We want them to be part of this team and to work with the other kids. So just be aware again that the students are diverse, and as you see these tendencies come out of them, help them channel into the different parts of FLL. Okay, now on to the part about you. Let's see. So this is you guys. This, in fact, is a picture of someone that's attending this session will recognize that I believe the coach from my team at North Shore Junior High is online. This is his predecessor. This is the coach that worked with me for a couple of years, and he's retired now. But I put his mug up here because he can't defend himself. But anyway, this is what a lot of coaches look like. They're sitting at a desk as a teacher all day, and then they take on this crazy FLL team. But I wanted to focus on the fact that, as we talked about a little bit before with the coach's promise, is you guys are the leaders, but you don't do the work. The thing you do provide, however, is structure and direction, specifically related to the end of the season that's coming up in 8 weeks, helping the kids stay focused on the deadline and making small incremental progress along the way. And this is something that we really focus on, and you'll probably ignore anyway and do everything the last 2 weeks like most coaches do, even the experienced ones. But do understand that you're there to steer and not necessarily row the boat. So help the kids get through it, keep them focused on the deadlines, but don't jump in. You do not have to be a technical expert to be a coach. In fact, the students usually figure all this technical stuff out on their own. You do need to be there to help them pick a topic theme, get organized, stay organized, and then get everything wrapped up. So just be patient, and thanks for doing this, by the way. It may seem crazy at this point, but it really does have some awesome rewards at the end. I've already hit on some important things about not freaking out about FLL and taking it too seriously. I reiterate here just to make sure you get the message, because this is supposed to be a good time. And if it's not, then something's happened that shouldn't have, and I want to help you get through that. So if you're just in drudgery all the time, then let me know. But if you are having a good time, then it's all working and firing all the cylinders, and that's good. So help the kids have fun, help yourself have fun. Don't worry about this too much. And let the kids do the work and just kind of stand back and bask in the glory of their accomplishments. One last thing, don't get too wrapped up in the winning part. Again, the journey is so important, and the stuff they learn along the way is so important. And the awards at the end are just the way that we get people focused on deadlines. That's why we do these competitions. And it's supposed to be a good time and a way to meet other people from your community and hopefully from around the whole Sound area, so or from the east side or west side or wherever you live. So you can see what everybody else is doing, and you hopefully learn some stuff for next year if you keep doing this. So I'm going to talk very specifically about the things you need to worry about with your team and running it. These are the specific tactics here. If you're not already doing it, you should be meeting with your team at least once a week. I typically meet twice a week for 2 hours a week, and I recommend that coaches do that. That seems to be kind of the minimum level of attention that FLL needs to have a fully fleshed out project and a robot that's doing at least a couple of missions. Everybody, I shouldn't say that. It's overgeneralized. A number of coaches feel like, well, we're meeting 4 hours a week and we're doing what you said, and yet we're not getting anywhere. The important thing is you need to make incremental progress. There are 15 missions on the table. You should be nailing a couple of missions a week once you get the robot working and the kids understand it. And don't expect to get them all done, especially as a rookie, but do focus on the fact that the kids should have 2, 3, 4, or 5 missions running sometime by the time you hit Thanksgiving. They should have the robot doing stuff that it's supposed to do. By then they should also have a project idea fleshed out, a solution fleshed out, and be working on fine-tuning their presentation. And to get there, you need to be making a lot of progress in October. The other thing is we want them to make that progress by getting out and talking to professionals in the field, talking to people that that work in the food safety industry. And hopefully there's technical folks mixed in there, but it can be anybody, anybody who writes policy. You could grab the director of marketing for a company that does food, anybody that can talk to you about how they keep food safe. And there's lots of them out there. You just have to make the call in many cases. And hopefully they'll come from your community, but you can reach as far as you like. In fact, a lot of teams do interviews with mentors and people that have technical expertise by phone or do it on the web or whatever. And then, as I've already mentioned, the kids come first. So they learn by doing this stuff, and if you do it for them, they're not going to learn anything. Excuse me. Screws and nails of coaching. You are going to have Legos everywhere, in your shoes, in your pockets, on the floor, under the chairs, sometimes in the sink. And so I highly recommend you have some way to organize them. Fishing tackle boxes are a good option, other storage bins, whatever. If you have to pack up your field and table every time you have a meeting, like in a school, someplace where a classroom where there's going to be other kids during the day, get some big storage bins, Rubbermaid bins or something so that they're tucked away and safe. You're also going to have to build a play field. The 4x8 playfield is a big sheet of plywood with 2x4 lumber borders, and if you don't know how to do carpentry, then you need to find someone that does. Usually hit up some of the parents. Somebody's usually got a table saw and a skill saw in their garage and put something like this together. You also need at least one computer to do robot programming. The LEGO NXT G software works on a PC or Mac. Make sure that they have a safe area separate from the playfield where they can set the robot up and program and do it. If you have more than 2 or 3 students on your team, I highly recommend you have more than one robot and more than one computer, because there's going to be lots of traffic and conflict if everybody's trying to do robot programs and there's only one way to one computer, one robot to do it with. I know that that's not possible for a lot of people, especially that don't have like district support and everything, but I'm just a point to note that more robots and more computers is better if you can swing it. The kids are going to need access to the internet to do the research for their project and make contact with people, and obviously some sort of program to write scripts on and everything else, so be aware that those are important things. And a note about the playfield table, it's the size of a pool table, and so if you can think about a pool hall where they've got lots of room where you can pull your cue sticks back, you need that same kind of space. Sticking a 4x8 sheet of plywood in a 10x6 room is really, really tight. So the kids are going to need to mill around and set up stuff and reach over the table and get to their robot. So it's really important that you have plenty of room. It's okay to set the table up on its end or out of the way when you're not using it, but you'll need to set up the field every time that the kids are going to be practicing. And last but not least, your table needs some way to support itself, and they're heavy. So make sure you have some work stands or a table you can set it on or something. Running it on the floor is possible. I see a lot of teams do it. It's just not very comfortable, so be aware of that. Okay, working with schools. If you're a coach in a school system, then be aware that there's some things that can get in your way. And again, this is late in the season, so some of these may be a moot point for you, but if you're bringing volunteers into the team, be aware that you may have to do background checks, and these can take a while. The schools in particular, they have to do this. This is a risk management thing. So if you have people that you've never worked with before, get them into the office right away and get them in the volunteer system. If you have money that you need to get out of the school system, in fact, we had this happen this morning during our talk, that the grant check hasn't come in and there's delays and money moving around. Add time in for getting people paid through the school system, and some of them are great, some of them are really challenging, so that's a really big deal. If you are installing NXT software to program robots on a computer in a school, and sometimes in companies or anybody else who's hosting you, those computers are often under the control of an IT department, and the IT department needs the software early to check it out, make sure it's not laden with viruses, and or make sure it won't crash and burn the computers or affect the network. And in my case, that took 3 weeks once. So I highly recommend you get the software to the computer people as soon as possible so you can get it installed in the PCs. Again, it's late in the season now, so hustle. That's a really big deal. Be very nice to the janitor. They have the keys to all the buildings, and they clean up after you. And often you're going to need a way to get in touch with them. And if you've been nice to them all year, hopefully they've shared their cell phone number with you so that if you need to get into the building on Saturday morning to get your robot for the competition, they're there and they can let you in. And so get to know those folks because they're very, very helpful, and if you can get to them when you need them. There is often, especially at the end of the season, times when you'll need to have access to the facility after hours, on the weekend or in the evening. And if you are an employee of the school, a lot of times you'll have a key, but if you're not, or if you're a parent helping a team, you need to know how to get into it, so get into the buildings and get stuff. So figure out that pathway when you don't need it and it's not a crisis. And then finally, if you're transporting students to an event under the auspices of as a school program, a lot of times there's issues with transportation. If you need to get a bus or something, get that all worked out as early as possible. Again, competition's on December 3rd, so figure out how to get the bus and all that, permission slips and all those things done. That always catches teams off guard. They're all ready to jump on even if parents are taking kids to these competitions, a lot of times the permission slip has to be signed by the parent. So just be aware that can get in the way, and don't forget that to the last minute. So you're the coach, but you may have some mentors, And the idea is to bring in people that have some specialty, some expertise in the field that you're working in. This year, again, food factor. So bring guest speakers over, do whatever you can to get the kids exposed to professionals. And sometimes they stay. Sometimes they're pretty excited about helping out, and they see what you guys are up to, and they say, hey, I can come back if you want me to talk some more, or I can teach kids about robots. They don't have to be somebody related to the theme. It could be a parent that knows how to do robotics. It could be a parent that's really good at public speaking and can work on the presentation, whatever, but get some help. And mentors can also just be people that back you up, and they sit with the kids and help them work through some of the project milestones. Frankly, they can just bring pizza or whatever, but do get some help, and if you can, get some help that has something to do with the theme or something to do with robotics, because that's really helpful. These are examples of mentors. I'm not going to linger here. You can grab the presentation and check them out, but it's just some ideas that you can use. This is the mentors examples slide for anyone who's on the phone. So I've got a team budget laid out here on screen. If again, this is maybe a moot point now if you've already started your team, but the general startup cost is $955 by our calculation. The bulk of that, or a big chunk of it, is the buying the robotic kit from FLL. That's $420. Every year you do FLL, it's always a $225, or at least I should say always, but this year and the last couple of years it's been $225 for registration, and then you have to buy the field kit of Lego parts. That's the robot mission models for $65, and there's usually some shipping and handling. I estimate $20. It's evidently gone up, so it could be as much as $40 or $50. But anyway, the initial startup cost that you pay to FLL to get your team registration and the challenge kit and a robot kit if you buy it is $730. So that's all the first stuff and to get going, and then the other costs associated with running a team, we typically see $50 or so investment in the plywood and all the parts to build it. There's other ways, less expensive, that you can find online, and then every team in the system, in the Washington State system, gets charged $75 to offset the cost of hosting these 13 competitions that we do. Primarily that goes to pay for janitorial service and for the awards. I shouldn't say primarily, that it all goes to that. In fact, we always run in the red, and we get donations from external companies to offset the difference and other donations. But anyway, that's just so you know, that's where the $75 goes. We don't make money at all, I guarantee it. So it's just to help us offset the cost, and they go up substantially. In fact, renting the facilities has gone through the roof. It's almost doubled in the last couple of years with the recession and cost cutting. More and more of the costs are passed on to the people that are taking the space, and I guess rightly so. But anyway, so that's where it's going. And then finally, we throw an extra $100 cushion in there for doing T-shirts and buying batteries for your robot and all the other little incidentals. So again, if you do the math, that's $955 per team. If you have 10 students, that's about $95, $96 per team member. A lot of teams charge a fee of some kind, usually not the whole price, but that is one way to cover the costs. Once you have the robots and the table built, all your costs obviously go way down. So that's it's just $400 or $500 to get a team going, to keep a team going year to year. I'm showing on screen now a picture of the FLL Robot Kit. I've had a number of questions about what comes in it, so I grabbed all the pictures online, and I just want to show it to you. Very quickly, the NXT brick is tucked away in the 9797 kit. It's the white bin that comes in the mail. You get a selection of Technic parts, so you can build the basic robot and the rolling chassis and some other goodies, wheels and some other things. Sensors are also in there, and the motors. The other kit you get is blue. It's got a blue bin, 9648. I highly recommend you get this kit if you've got NXT retail kits or something. But the key is that this has treads in it, so people that are going to make the tank style robot. It's also got a lot of extra links and Technic parts, and invariably kids use these to solve the missions. The base 9797 kit is usually not enough to get a robot with attachments and things to solve the mission stuff. The other thing I forgot to mention is that the 9797 kit, which is the Lego education version of the NXT, comes with a rechargeable battery and a recharger. That is not true of the retail NXT kit. That does not have the rechargeable battery and the charger. The other thing that comes in the FLL Robot Kit is the NXT software that goes in the computer, but it has 10 licenses instead of 1. So arguably every student on the team could run the software and program robots. It's supposed to run for the season, but you'll notice that the FLL season runs from May to April, so that's pretty much year-round. So anyway, the idea is that they put this kit together, and it's pretty inexpensive relative to the regular commercial options. But I just wanted you to see what you get in the box when you order this kit. There are demos of all this stuff online on the YouTube thread, which I'll give you links to later. I've got an email here from Dave. He just received an email from FLL that my FLL material has been sent. Is the software included in the material? I presume it is. Dave, I hate to do this to you, but I know who you are, and I know your software is already installed on the computers in your lab. So you already have what you need, but and you probably just got a team registration, which doesn't really include software. It includes some promotional DVD and presentation stuff, but your software should be all set. And if it's not, your school, I know in particular, has a site license for the FLL NXT software, and so you can use it on any computer that's associated with the school. Excuse me, folks, for that interruption, but. Oh, and I have failed you. I just realized that I did not show you some websites that I should have, and I'll just do that at the end then. Never mind. We'll talk about. Well, I'll give you some examples of stuff that we can cover in a little bit. Anyway, evaluation of your team. When you get to the tournament, you're going to experience a number of different evaluations, and the key are in the morning is the judging sessions. The kids are going to go in as a group and stand in front of judges and do stuff. In fact, this year, as I mentioned before, they're going to do that 3 times. The first one is the project presentation, which is researching the problem, coming up with a solution, and then doing a presentation session and sharing your results with the community, then doing this presentation. You're also going to construct a robot to do the missions, but we have a judging session for the robot where engineer folk will stand around and check out the robot and ask the kids questions about how they came to their design conclusions, why they made choices for solving certain mission parts, etc. And then as this new thing, the core values, we're going to evaluate the kids' teamwork skills and how they have evolved as a team. I have to admit that these evaluations are fully subjective based on the judge and their noggin. They do, however, have rubrics. And the reason I realized that I hadn't shown you websites yet is that I'm going to show you the judge rubrics and the judge website. Just a moment to bring this up here. So I'm going to slide the website right in front of you. And if you look, I'm showing now the first LegoLeague.org website, and I'm looking at the judging and awards section. There's a link to this in the presentation at the end, so don't worry about trying to copy this down hurriedly. But the key thing to notice is that there are a few PDFs on this website. One in particular is the rubrics. And when you bring the rubrics up, you're going to see the same sheet that the judges use. And the reason I tell you this is when you're working with the kids preparing their presentation or preparing their robot, you can look at this and say, oh, the judges are worried about all 3 aspects of discovery and that they're enthusiastic. Oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the core values. Let's get on one that's a little more objective here. Okay, here we go. Project. So I'm looking at the project rubric the judge is going to use. And one question, problem identification. They're going to be looking for whether the team clearly identified the problem in the presentation. And these rubrics are 1 page each. One is for core values, one is for project, and one is for robot design. So what I'm hoping is going on in your mind right now is, I should go print out the rubrics and take them to the meeting and go through them with the kids. That's exactly what you should do. So when you go do this, you can see what's important to the judges. And by important, I mean during the training that I do for the judges, I say, use your rubric as a guideline for how you evaluate the kids. And then they'll look at this and say, okay, was it clearly detailed? Sure enough. And you'll also notice on these rubrics, there's an area at the bottom for comments, and the judges will fill these out, and you'll get feedback from them so you'll know how the kids did on each of these 3 sessions. The intention, of course, is for the kids to improve, especially hopefully you'll come back next year and you'll say, oh, last year we didn't really identify the problem, so this year we're really going to focus on that and make sure it's important that it's set up right. So again, there's one for the robot design, same thing. Is the robot durable? Is it mechanically efficient, et cetera, et cetera? And then you can see what the judges are using to evaluate the kids. So once again, judging a website with the rubrics displayed here. All right, sliding the website page off the screen, back to our slides. So just keep in mind the rubrics exist, and to get them and review them beforehand so you have some guidance on how the kids are evaluated. The cool thing about the evaluation is that the result is a bunch of awards. And in fact, we have more awards this year than ever. We used to have, I think, 8 at the events. Now, what are we at? Yikes, 13 total. I have them listed here on the screen. There used to be one project award, one robot award, and then a team spirit award, and now each of those 3 areas are broken into 3 awards each. We still have the Regional Champions Award, which is the highest award we give out. We have the Robot Performance Award, which is based on the score your robot achieves during the challenge competition in the afternoon, the robot mission stuff. And then for project, we've got these 3 awards: Research, Innovative Solution, and Presentation. For robot, mechanical design, programming, strategy, and innovation. And then core values is inspiration, teamwork, and gracious professionalism. See, there was a reason I showed you that slide early in the presentation. And then finally we have a judge award, and that is sort of a wild card. If the judges come across a team that has done something unusual where there is no fitting award, they will make up an award. And then finally we have a performance alternate. And the only reason that exists is teams can only win one judged award at the event, and they can only go to championships if they win a certain the Champions Award and a couple of other ones. But if they win a judged award and they win robot performance, in some cases both of those awards will get them the championships, and we always like to have 5 teams come from each regional to go to the championships. So if the one team would occupy 2 of those championship slots, we come up with a performance alternate, which is given to the team that has the next highest robot score. This may be confusing. Don't worry about it. It gets sorted out by the judges and everything, but just keep in mind that it is possible that a team can win 2 awards at the event, and that we will always make sure we get 5 winners to the championships. Okay, so next up is we'll talk about project, in particular the project presentations and just ways to conduct yourself and how to do this a little better. The key thing that always gets in the way of teams succeeding at the project is picking that problem, getting started. One of the biggest problems with the project is that it's so broad that you can spend the entire season just trying to figure out what you want to try to tackle. And in a way you have to sort of solve it backwards, in the sense that you can try to figure out what the kids may want to do as a solution, and food gets contaminated. Well, they come up with a way to irradiate food or something, and then you can go find a problem. Well, this factory has a real problem with cockroaches dropping into the food, so and that's actually a bad example for radiation. But the point is, a lot of times kids get excited about a solution before they get excited about the problem. It's not a great way to do this, and I'd much prefer that everybody goes and finds the problem first and then figures out a solution, and that's how it should work. But just stay open to the kids and try to listen to what they're talking about, and then you can figure out how to get them going. The key, though, is to get going, is to figure out your problem and figure out your solution as quick as possible so that you can get to work on it. Again, there's no research grants or college tuition waivers on the board here. We just want to get progress, and because they're learning teamwork, and I don't expect anybody to actually go out and come up with a solution that is implemented, at least not your first year. So just get going. That's my key message with the project presentation. And another thing is figuring out how to share it with the community is always a big challenge. The first website has lots of suggestions for how to do this. You can do a website, you can do something in an assembly, you can create a poster you hang up in the library, whatever, but get focused on how to share your solution with the community as early as possible, because again, it can really sneak up on you. And then finally, within a few weeks of the competition, you should have your presentation to a point where you can start practicing the dialogue. And it's only 5 minutes long. It's not super challenging to have 5 minutes. In fact, it usually goes by really fast. So try to come up with a skit or something funny. It'll be easier for the kids and easier for the judges to listen to. And remember, a lot of them are seeing 10, 12 teams during the day. And they'll remember humor a lot more than they will the standard bullet point presentation given with PowerPoint like this one. So by all means, do something funny. And then keep in mind that you get a DVD or is it a CD? It doesn't matter. You get a DVD in with your coach materials, the coach manual, that says the project on it, and all that is a bunch of videos of other teams getting presentations. So it's a great way to get some suggestions on how to do this. Okay. I've got a question here that I missed a few minutes ago, so I'm hopeful it's still sort of relevant. I have a suggestion from Tony. Retractable shelves with wheels at Fred's Origami, under $100. Tony, Boeing mentor. I already donated a couple to FRC teams. Tony, I'm guessing this is a suggestion for keeping your Legos organized for the coaches. Is that right? Sorry, folks. I probably have gone completely and totally past where Tony was talking about here. Yep. Okay. So Tony made a suggestion a while back about a set of retractable shelves. I'm going to copy it in here. I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat window, which I hope you all will see. And this is for organizing your Legos and all your goodies. So in your chat window, you should see a response from me that says retractable shelves with wheels, and it gives you a part number and some other stuff. So if you want to check that out later, by all means. And I apologize for missing that, Tony. I'm looking at the other screen, and I missed it. Okay, so project presentation, a couple key points. Make sure you understand it's live. Make sure you understand you have 5 minutes to deliver it. And make sure that you practice beforehand, because when the kids come in the door, they have 5 minutes to go. And if the kids fumble and have to pick stuff up off the floor and they don't know what to say, it's really obvious to the judges. And the time is clicking away, and they will stop them at the end of 5 minutes to keep the playing field level for the other teams. Also, don't get too enamored with AV technology stuff. If they show up with a laptop and a projector and they have to plug it in, again, that really kills your 5 minutes. So, and how the presentation unravels is you have 5 minutes to present as soon as you walk in the door. There's a 5-minute Q&A session, and then the judges excuse the team, and then they do their rubric work and make comments as necessary, and then they see the next team. So it's a 15-minute block, but you're only there for 10 minutes of it. Once again, make sure you look at the rubrics too. Quick picture of what an actual FLL presentation looks like. They're usually in classrooms. Kids stand up at the front of the room with a poster board. I like this one because they're wearing uniforms and even have a stethoscope. I think this was Body Forward, one of last year's presentation teams based on the theme of the human body. Okay, so project presentation is behind us. That's one of the judging sessions. Next one is the robot design. And this is sort of combined with both the robot missions and the robot judging. The key for the kids is to get as many missions done and gain as much points in the 2.5 minutes that the robot is on the table. So 5 minutes for the project presentation, 2.5 minutes for the robot strategy or the robot competition when they're competing, but there's a robot design presentation that's also 5 minutes, or actually about 10 minutes for the kids with the judges doing Q&A. So, and I don't mean to confuse the two, but robot design is both how the kids compete in the afternoon for the robot missions, and also the robot gets judged by a judge panel in the morning. So they should spend a little time creating strategy before they do the building and all that, and by that I mean they should look at all the missions and try to figure out how to optimize how the robot is going to interact with the field. So they don't want to be making big drives across the field wasting time to accomplish missions that they can clump together. Keep in mind, though, that the robot is entirely autonomous. The kids can only touch the robot in base. There's a little 16-inch by 16-inch white square on the playing field in which the robot is handleable by folk. But most of the time the robot is out in the field by itself doing stuff autonomously. And it's if they have to go out and rescue the robot because it's tangled in something, there's a penalty system in FLL that we use every year where they lose points or they lose access to points more likely. So they're going to build it to do all these missions, but the other thing is the engineers, judges that we have are going to check the robot for its design quality, and by that they look at robustness and how much thought was put into doing it. Can they quickly change attachments, because most of the robots have to go out and do multiple missions. It's very rare that I see a robot that you just press the orange button and it runs for 2.5 minutes and it does everything all by itself. So the judges are going to evaluate all that based on their interview questions, and again, they're going to use that rubric. So if you have any concerns about NXT programming, there's lots of tutorials online. Carnegie Mellon has a lot of fantastic coach training stuff, and because the NXT is used in so many classrooms, there's lots of ways to learn about NXT programming. However, the students are really pretty good at figuring out how to get the NXT working without you, and there's good stuff even in the software to show the kids how to get started and how to program. So I highly recommend that you spend time online looking for stuff, but just get the kids connected to it. And one last reminder, the NXT is a toy, and the software was written by Lego so that it can be used by kids. This is not something that should be technically unachievable by your students, and so don't worry too much about this. So robot design judging is you get to do this on a table with the kids. It's the 4x8 playfield I was talking about earlier, but you'll have access to a whole kit. We usually have a whole field kit in the room, so if the kids want to demonstrate, they certainly can. You do not have to bring a formal presentation to this, and so it's not critical that the kids walk in with a code hierarchies printed out or anything else. Most students just walk in the door with the robot in their hands, and they're just ready to talk about it. That's really the only important thing to worry about. And once again, there's a rubric for robot design. I've got a question here. Let's see. Is the robot design just an interview Q&A session justify the design choices? And the answer is yes. It looks like I answered it right as Carol answered. So yes, indeed it is. In fact, here's a picture of it. So you got two engineers. This is Jim Mugg standing in the foreground in the red shirt, one of our long time volunteers and a very experienced engineer. And then you can see the kids standing there on the table just demoing how the robot works. And you will, again, have access to a full table and field kit. At a minimum, there will be a field kit spread out on the floor with the pieces and usually a border, but we try to have full tables available at every competition. Okay, last but least, core values judging, the last of the 3 judging sessions. This is new. We expect to do an impromptu design competition to evaluate teamwork during the judge processing time. I wish I could give you more details, but I have to be honest, we're still sort of figuring out how it's going to go. It's left up to us with some guidance from FLL how to do this. So keep in mind also, though, that the teams are evaluated the whole day for core values. It's not just during the judging session. So if we see especially good things or even especially challenging things, and by that I mean kids misbehaving, the referees and the other volunteers that have been doing FLL events for a while keep their eyes out for this stuff. And if a team does something really great and awesome, they will let the judges know. But if a team is not really adhering to the core values and they're doing rotten stuff, they watch that too, and they also let the judges know. So make sure the kids understand that core values are judged on the whole day, and especially on the playing fields when they're out there competing. How they're behaving there is under scrutiny by the refs and the other volunteers. And the refs in particular, many of them have done this for a while, and they know that they are the pipeline for the judges. And core value stretches beyond just the judges, just award set. The Champions Award, which is the highest award we give, depends heavily on adherence to core values. And so if a team is out there doing terrible things and they're in consideration for an award, it really can upset their chances. So it's not just about the core values award, it's really for all awards in FLL. And what a segue. We're talking about the Champions Award very briefly. It's the big one. It's the best award, highest award we give. It gets the biggest Lego trophy at our events at the championships, and it's for the team that is most successful in all aspects of FLL. And in particular, is very low emphasis on the robot itself and more emphasis on everything else, including the core values. Robot performance, you don't have to have the best robot, or at least not the highest score there. They just have to be in the top 40% or so, just to basically show that they took the robot seriously enough to compete. And so it is the team that is sort of the top in all categories, or the top 1 and 2 in all categories. Okay, believe it or not, we're getting close to the end, so stick with me. Hopefully none of you are in coma there, and I haven't bored you to tears, but we're getting close. So let's talk about tournament day itself. As I've mentioned before, it's all on December 3rd, which is a Saturday. The tournaments this year will probably run from 8 to 5, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And the reason for that, last year we started a little later, but we have this 3rd judging session, so now we have to bring people in earlier. As I mentioned, oh, I haven't actually talked about the pits much. So there are 3 things that you'll be doing at the event primarily. Pits, which is where you're going to hang out when you're not doing the other 2 things, and then the technical presentation and core values judging, and then the robot contest. And then at the very end, when all that is finished, we have the awards. So when you arrive at the event in the morning, you'll be in the pits, get all set up, and then immediately, or within usually about a half hour, you'll start to head off to your judging sessions, and you have to do 3 of those, and we will come to find you in the pits to get you to those. Actually, I think I'm jumping ahead here, but the last point to keep in mind, though, is if you do advance from the qualifier to the championship is on the January 14th, another Saturday, right after the first of the year. So in terms of what you need to bring to the tournament, we have an information sheet which is available on the First WA website, and I will show you that right now. as promised. So this is firstwa.org. This is the Washington group that I'm a part of and I mentioned early in the presentation. But the important thing for you is to note that there's an FLL tab at the top of the screen. When you click on it, a navigation menu shows up on the left, and one of the options is Downloads. Click on that. You'll be a screen that has 3 important things on it. Well, actually lots of important things, but 3 that are important to our discussion here. One is the team info sheet. You click on the download and you can bring it down. It is a 1-page PDF file that you should fill out that describes your team, and the reason you do this is you're going to hand a copy, 1 each, to the 3 judges you're going to visit. And it's for them to take notes on, and it's especially useful if you can put a picture on there because they will remember the kids and the robots and everything else better. And so I highly recommend you do that. And just download it and check it out, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And the other thing is the consent and release form. This is something from FLL that has to be signed by every student, coach, and mentor that attend our events. It's essentially a hold harmless and a consent to use your photograph because a lot of our, as you can see in my presentation, I've got pictures of the kids and stuff, and it's not manageable to keep photo release forms and all that. So just everybody signs one, and if you can't, unfortunately, you cannot attend the competition. Okay. Oh, sorry. Last but least, right? The third and last most important thing is the slides from this presentation are available here. But again, don't download this version. You'll notice it's from the 17th of September. I'm going to upload a new one as soon as we're finished here today. There's a couple new slides I want to go over. Okay, so the other things you need besides those forms are extra robot batteries and a charger. If you're using rechargeable batteries, you can, or lots of extra AA's. Make sure you bring a laptop or some other portable computer. Food and drink. Some of the competitions have food, but not all of them, and you'll get that information as soon as you get assigned, which will be in the next week or so. But the kids will need something to keep their blood sugar up. Please bring an extension cord and power strip. We have power at the pit tables usually using a node snake cable. Don't worry about that. It means you'll have access to power, but sometimes it doesn't stretch to all the tables. And if everybody brings an extension cord and a power strip, we can usually build a network that gets everybody connected. And then finally, if you could bring your field mission pieces, your field setup kit. Occasionally we have to borrow those from teams. And if I tell everybody, then half the teams will remember, or maybe a third, and then we'll have enough stuff to go. Usually you'll get contacted by your organizer, and they'll let you know if they need you to bring stuff, but please do if you think of it. Okay, so finally the pits. Excuse me, I've got a question here I need to answer. How will teams be selected to go to the state? There are many more awards this year. And this goes back earlier. I was talking about all the awards we have and that only 5 teams go to state. Those are selected by the judges during the judge deliberation process. And the general pattern we'll follow is we'll choose one of the 3 project winners, one of the 3 robot winners, and one of the 3 core values winners. And it'll basically, it'll boil down to a subjective evaluation of how good their core values are. And of the 3 that are evaluated, the judges will pick one based on the bet. And I wish I had a more objective way to tell you the answer to that question, but there isn't one. It's essentially like winning another award, and it'll be based on the judge evaluation. Okay, excuse me for that jump. We're back to pit area and practice tables. So this is a picture of what the pits look like. You'll notice there's just a bunch of tables in rows. Excuse me, just 1 second. Sorry about that, folks. I had a little family thing come up just for a second. Anyway, and then so everybody has a single table on which they'll set up their pit area and hopefully set up their computer. You see lots of boxes of Legos there, and the power strips are all tangled up on the floor at the bottom of that photo. But this is what the pits look like. It's complete bedlam, lots of fun, and this is also where you're going to get to meet your neighbors and hopefully learn some other stuff. There is usually a few practice tables in the pit area so the kids can practice their event. You can bring your own table to the event. There's usually room to do that. We just hope you'll share it with other teams. Again, this is kind of a core values, gracious professionalism thing. And we've talked about this quite a bit. I just wanted to review very briefly what the structure of the morning looks like. You show up, you set up on your pits, everybody gets their name badges on, and very quickly you'll start getting visits from high school kids with volunteer suits on to drag you off to your judging sessions. You will get a schedule when you arrive, so you'll know what time and where you need to be. But if you're not familiar with the school that you're competing at, which is where most of our competitions are held, you can depend on these volunteers to get you to the right spot. That entire system depends on you being in the pits a few minutes before you're supposed to be at your sessions. So make sure that you get everybody ready for like the project presentation. All your props and everything are in hand so that when the volunteer runner comes to get you, you're there. And again, you need to be there at least 5 minutes, if not 10, before each of your scheduled judging sessions. And then in the afternoon, after we have some lunch, when the judging is finished, we have the lunch session, and then in the afternoon we do the robot contest. And it's very similar in the sense that we have runners that will come get your team. They'll queue you up, so you'll arrive at the competition table before your round begins. And that kind of breaks down in the afternoon because everybody is. Hang on, sorry, one more little family share I need to address. Hang on just a sec. I apologize, folks. My son's heading up to a soccer game, and I had to clear something. Anyway, so you'll have 3 matches on the competition table. The best score of the 3 is what determines your ranking in the robot performance category. And I was mentioning, just as I went offline for a second there, that the runners will come get you in the morning in the first part of the competition, but eventually you'll kind of get the idea, and you can start showing up on your own. You don't have to wait for the runners anymore. And then after the match is finished, your team should head back to the pits, clear the competition floor, and make room for the other teams that are playing. One note, technical note, we do not allow Bluetooth at the events, so please do not use Bluetooth programming or communications with your NXT. It causes a lot of interference and some other things, so please don't use it. Okay. Got a question, Carol, for the practice tables. Is there a schedule for time equity or a time limit? Do all team members go to the competition tables? Okay, so first question, the practice tables, yes, we usually have a volunteer there scheduling signups. We don't usually have a lot of trouble with that, but there is somebody there to monitor the practice table and make sure that people can get on it, though no team just sits there for 30 minutes running. In the mornings, when your team is not at the judging session, we give access to the competition tables as well as for practice because the refs get to practice their scoring. We might even run a few rounds. So yeah, you just wander over there, sign up for a match, and then go for it. Second question, do all team members go to the competition tables? You can take the entire team, but only 2 students can be at the table running the robot at a time. So if you have more than those 2 students that are going to do the competition around, then the match, they'll have to tag out. So they have to step behind the line, and then 2 more students can come in. So if you're going to be swapping a lot of students simultaneously, you have to make sure you keep that. And the refs will make sure that only 2 students are at the table at a time. If all 10 students are not directly involved with the competition, I don't recommend you bring them to the table. In fact, I think the refs might even, depending on the event and who's running it, may clear you out of there if they're not actually part of the team that are running it. And you can stand back or get up in the stands and watch. And then finally, the question from Carol is, I'm guessing it is a good idea to select 2 or 3 kids as handlers. The answer is yes, that is true. It's best to have a team of students that are responsible for, or a couple teams, 2, 4, even 6 kids that are going to be swapping in and out. However, every swap is a time loss, so just be aware that something I've seen a lot of teams do is because you get 3 matches, they have a team for match 1, a team for match 2, and a team for match 3. That's up to you. That's part of the strategy. Then you can figure that out. So at the end of the day, we have awards. Every student in FLL gets a medal, and so we'll usually give those as a bundle to each team, like a representative from the team member, and of course we do the awards ceremony as well. We talked about volunteers and do a quickie to get everybody ramped up. Thank all the folks that spend time doing this on their own nickel, and then it wraps up. Everybody packs up and goes home. Key things are that, as I mentioned before, only 1 judged award per team, which means the judges will only give like 1 project award, or the robot championship award only goes to 1 team. You can't win a robot award, like a robot design award or project award. You only get 1, so you'll be the best person. It'll be the best award for your team. And the only time that will not happen is if the students win the robot performance award, because that is entirely based on robot performance on the field. Is not involved in the judging process at all. So it is possible for a team to win 2 awards at the event, but only because they've won robot performance and another judged award. And that's why we have the performance alternate award, by the way, which I mentioned earlier. Again, don't worry about it, but that's the deal. Okay. So the question about advancing to the championships. We have 2, as I mentioned before, East and West. There are 5 teams from each regional that go. The judges choose them based on where they fit in their category. So if you win a project award, you'll be the best team of the 3 project award winners. and core values is kind of the determining factor. We haven't done this before. This is our first year, so I have to admit, again, we'll be learning sort of on tournament day how to fine-tune this process a little bit. I've already talked about the Performance Alternate Award, and if you're confused about it, again, don't sweat it. It doesn't really mean anything. If it happens at your event, it'll get taken care of. I have a question here from Tracy. Can a coach come to the contest and stand outside the marked area? Absolutely. Yeah, the coaches, in fact, we let the coaches be at the competition table with the students. I believe they let one adult or two adults stand there. Again, it kind of varies by event, and that's just based on how much space is available. So, and any other adults and visitors certainly can be in the stand and watch. So, we are basically at the end. I have lots of links, not lots, a couple links and a couple of important things I'm going to go over. Just a few more minutes left, though, and then I will open up the floor for questions. But I just want you to be aware that of some things that you should know about. So these are documents that you care about. Hopefully you can see these on screen, but if you can't, I'll cover them quickly. The coach manual that comes in your padded envelope looks like this. And just be aware that it is a comprehensive guide. Much of what this presentation covers is in the coach manual, and there's a whole lot more stuff in there. I highly recommend you at least skim through it. If you have the time, read the whole thing. But try to cover all the pages. One of my special favorite sections, I believe, is on page 84. It is a scheduled timeline that you can follow step by step. Oh, I'm sorry, 84 is the checklist. And I think if you go to 89 has a timeline and week by week topic list that you can follow. So if you do nothing else, read the core values and the coach's promise in the first couple pages, and then check out page 89 so you can see the schedule. So it'll give you some idea of how to manage the milestones and the timeline of the team. Also in that guide that with your coach guide came a DVD called The Project. It has a bunch of other presentations that kids have done in FLL. Show it to your team, and it's a good way to know kind of how to proceed. So use that reference. Even if you only do it once, it'll give the kids some context, and then it'll help them plan their presentation well. And then finally, the FLL Challenge Guide is a PDF file available on the Challenge website, which I will show you. Give me just a moment here. All right. Nope, that's not it. Excuse me. Where did I do it? So here. So I'm on the challenge, and then if you go to the Food Factor Challenge page, it's right here, this PDF. It says the complete challenge, and in there are the mission rules, the project guidelines, and the missions themselves, their description. So please go grab that thing if you haven't already and start working on the challenge. You should have a couple of printed copies. The kids should see it. The kids should read it, or as the best they can. Some of it's kind of chunky, but I highly recommend you get on and check out that challenge as soon as possible. And then these are links you care about. And if you haven't figured this out already, this is meant to be a reference when you download the presentation later. The challenge site link is in here. There's also a site called Game Updates, and this is also extremely important for you. What happens is the challenge is released, and then immediately all these smart FLL coaches and students start to figure out all the problems. And then they email Scott Evans, who does these challenges every year, and he starts a running log of all the changes that have to get made to make the contest more user-friendly and or fair. And you'll notice that there's already been 24 changes to the release in the last month. So when you go to this Robot Game Updates, which is a link right there, you can't see it if you're on the phone, but it's on the left side on the FLL page, you'll notice lots of little hints and things. This is one of the things that in the Coach Promise you're responsible for getting the kids pointed to. They have to take care of it, but just make sure they know it's there and that they're keeping up. So please make sure you check the Robot Updates site. And then team info, this is GoFLL website, and this is another big important thing. As I mentioned, you need to keep your email address updated so that excuse me, I can get in touch with you and FLL can get in touch with you. The way you do that is by logging in under your team info with your credentials and getting those email addresses up to date in the database. The address is gofll.usfirst.org. Definitely go do that. And do that now. If you do nothing else after this presentation, please make sure that your email addresses are up to date. If you're getting emails from me, then everything's cool. But okay, two more links. Judge rubrics, you guys know about those already. We talked about them, but that's how the judges are evaluating your team. And you can see them. You can download them yourself and check them out. Again, print those out, take them to your kids, go over them yourself. And then last but least, there is a YouTube channel for FLL. And the reason that it is worthwhile, and I know much of YouTube is not worthwhile, but there is some worthwhile stuff on there. There is a robot game video now produced by Scott showing you how all the missions work. And so I don't know if a lot of schools block YouTube, but if you can get access to this video on the school website, I highly recommend you do, because it shows all the missions and it gives you suggestions on how to make them work and all the rest. Definitely watch it. There's also all kinds of other links here that you should look at, including the product demos I talked about earlier, where LEGO explains differences of the robots and all kinds of other things. So tons of resources online, and this is just kind of a collection of what I consider the more important links. Okay, I got a couple questions I'm going to grab. I have one question from Carol. Do all adults in the pits need to be officially registered as a coach mentor, or can I have parents who are able to volunteer that day as long as they have signed the waiver? The answer is we do not let everyone in there. If they're considered a team coach or mentor, they should get a badge in the morning. So you don't have to be a registered coach, and you can bring any adults you want to, but there's a limit on how many you can bring. So we don't want to see 10 adults standing around your table. And the key there is just capacity. We just don't have the room to have the entire, visitor set for every team wandering around the pits. It's not safe. So, but you can have any volunteers that are a key part of the team at the event. They don't have to be registered, but they do have to sign the waiver, as you indicate, Carol. So if you have 3 or 4 adults that are helping total, including the coach, no problem. They'll get badges from the registration folks, but just do be aware that visitors are not allowed in the pits. They have to be part of the team. They just don't have to be registered as a mentor or a coach. Okay, a couple resources that you should be also aware of that are a little separate from the main FLL stream. WashingtonFirst.org, again, is the state website where you're going to learn about all the competitions themselves. We also have a few things like the downloads that I showed you earlier. There's an FAQ. A lot of questions that you're going to come across are probably answered there, so I highly recommend you check that out. First.org, and then follow the links to FLL, and you can go from there. We also have a Yahoo discussion group. The important thing for that is you have access to a lot of the coaches that are in the FLL team set in Washington State. They poll through that site. They watch the email traffic. And the other thing is, whenever I send an email to the coaches, I copy this group, so it's an archive of all the past communications from me related to like these sessions and competition assignments and all the other things. So I highly recommend you join. Just search WAFLL, WAFLL on the groups.yahoo.com site. There's also links in this presentation to get to it. Let's see, usfirst.org, obviously that's the FLL site. Go there for challenge and everything else. And finally, LEGOeducation.com. If you break stuff or need parts for your NXT, anybody can buy parts from LEGO, the LEGO Education site that just packaged differently primarily. And one of the key things is you can buy, you can buy spare parts for your Legos, and that's like axles and Technic parts and all the other things. So just be aware that you do have access to LEGO Education if you need spares or need things, and that you don't have to suffer without them if they go missing, which a lot of Legos do. Almost last but least, High Tech Kids is the Minnesota FLL program. Lots of great resources on their website, just telling you that it's there. It looks like this. There's a lot of coach things there, stuff that we do not have because the program is so huge. They've got great resources. So if you're struggling or you want some inspiration, it's a good place to go, which is why it's linked in from our website. And wrapping up finally. So you guys have been very good, and partially because I muted you, you couldn't speak to me, but no, seriously, we hope you have a good time with FLL. We hope the kids get a lot of stuff out of it that improves their overall outlook on school and also encourages them to get into science engineering career paths. And but it's not just about them. It's about you too, and it should offer some rewarding benefits to you, and at least in the sense of accomplishment and getting these kids through it. A lot of our coaches come back and do this year after year because it is very rewarding. I volunteer because I can't stay away. I think FLL and FIRST programs in general are incredibly successful getting kids lined up to do good stuff they may not have otherwise done. And there's data to back that all up. Brandeis University has done studies, and FIRST has done a couple other ones that show that involvement with FIRST gets kids into college twice as much as they would otherwise, and also to choose careers in science and technology they'd be twice as likely to do so. So this really does work, and I really appreciate that you're willing to take your personal time and blood, sweat, and tears to make this all happen for your kids, but it is for a greater purpose. So, and the second to last bullet about registration being available is a complete lie. It is now closed. So if you don't have a team yet, it's too late, but you should go to competitions and check it out. So that's pretty much it. All right, that is all I have of the formal part of this presentation to talk about. I'm going to unmute everybody for a minute, and if you want to bail, now is your chance to get away without feeling embarrassed. But and if you're asleep, it's time to wake up. And then I'll let you guys speak and ask questions if you like now. And just give me a second. I'm going to unmute folks. I will probably mute people if there's a lot of background noise, and it's just because everybody can hear it, and it's very distracting. But if you have something to say, now is a good time to say it. Everyone is now unmuted. Okay, I have a question here, a typed question. Let's see. I have new desktop computers. The FLL software was downloaded on the old computers. Advise me what to do. Thank you. This is from Dave, a guy that I thought I knew all about his computer system. Okay. If you have upgraded a computer, and I'll tell everybody this, if you've upgraded a computer and lost the license, you need to contact your IT department and ask them about the NXT software, because they have the disks. And Dave, in your case in particular, I know they do. So Dave, they have all the things you need. We need to call IT for the district and have them reinstall the software on your new computers. I didn't realize that they had upgraded you. And then I've got a hand up from Tina. Tina, you are unmuted, so you can talk at will if you have a microphone.
Oh, I think sorry, I just didn't turn it down, so I'm totally fine, but I just wanted to hear other questions, so.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So everybody is now unmuted. If you have a microphone, I can hear you. If you don't want to want me to hear you, you can mute yourself on your console for GoToMeeting.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm telling everybody that, not just you. I didn't mean to single you out. And in fact, what I'll do now, is there any questions about anything in the presentation, any slides you want to see, links you want me to follow, or anything like that? This is a good time. I've been coaching for a lot of years. I've been doing FIRST programs for 10, so I know quite a bit about the program. Other programs, don't be shy. Let's see. I can kind of run through some of the FAQ stuff. Again, don't feel bad if you want to bail out of here. There's no penalty for taking off, but we can talk about some of the gotchas that people run into. So I'm going to go ahead and do that since everybody's so quiet today. You guys are the quietest group I think I've ever had. Usually there's 100 people that have got to ask questions. Okay, so this is the FAQ section of the firstwa.org site. It is a compilation of things that I always get asked every year, and I add to it every year. I can't believe there's already 18 things, but typically people ask me questions, and so once I get asked 2 or 3 times, I throw it on here. Let's see, we don't have to talk about one because you guys hopefully already have teams, and you're already registered, so 2's out of there. Help programming Lego NXT. Is anybody nervous about programming at all? Teaching the kids how to program? I did mention that it's a toy made by Lego, and the kids are like moths to a light when there's Legos in the room usually, so they get that figured out. But if not, there are tons of tutorials online. We have a bunch of links in the FAQ. Let's see, if money is an issue for anybody, there's a lot of really good fundraising stuff with links in here in general, but lots of ways to raise money for teams. PTA, ASB, there's the old bake sale, but there's also grants available depending on what kind of team you have, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, there's an answer about the 15-year-old child. Nope, I've got a typed question. I'll remind people that they need to register separately for the WA regional competitions. Yes, I talked about this in the budget a bit, but I'll reemphasize this. Thank you, Carol. So, Carol reminded me to remind you that there is a separate $75 registration for the regional competition, and I am going to show you that now. Maybe. There we go. Come on, baby. Nope, not going to play along. Okay. I can't seem to pick that slide, so we'll just go backwards. So there, and again, the $75 helps us offset our costs so that we can afford to pay janitors and facility rental and buy awards and do all this other stuff. Buy those shirts that those volunteers were wearing. The slide just went by, but it is a separate fee, and paying for it is on the First While website. There is a link. Let me get us there. Hang on just a moment, folks. Sorry. So on the First While website, and you go to pay your state registration, and by the way, the deadline isn't until the end of October, so you have a month to figure out to get the $75. But there is a local website. We take money through PayPal. It's $75. So this is the website where you sign up. It's over here on the left navigation pane from firstwa.org under FLL, and this is the basic stuff. If you don't mind, we really like to hear about where you're from, because it helps us do demographic analysis that's anonymous. We're just trying to collect the makeup of our first teams. It helps us with grants every year, frankly. So I'm trying to get to that slide. Okay, so I've got a bunch of questions coming in by type. Since I'm not hearing any talking questions, I'm going to mute everybody again. And if you want me to, I can unmute you. All right, so can we print your PowerPoint presentation? This is from George. Yes, you can, George. I'm going to post this on the First While website. I'll show you where it's at. It's if you go to the firstwa.org website here, and then you click on the FLL tab, and then go to Downloads. It's the third link on the download site. However, don't do it yet, because I need to upload the one I just gave. I added a few slides this morning, and I want to make sure those get available. You notice the date is from September 17th, and so there will be a new one sometime around 12:30 on the 2nd of October. But when it's ready, in like 15 minutes after we're done here, you can click on the download link and print out anything you like. Next question from Tracy is, if there is room on your team and a child that is 8 wants to be part of the team, can they be added? Absolutely. We don't check. The reality is we don't check ages of the students, even the high end. If the kids look like there's a bunch of high school kids on it, the tournament advisor will ask for some sort of confirmation, or they'll want to talk to parents or something. I mean, it just doesn't happen in FLL. In terms of the kids being too old, usually we just don't have that problem. However, the younger kids, we also don't check those ages either. If it's really obvious, you've got a 3-year-old on the team or something, we probably would say something. But 8-year-olds, we every year we have a number of 8-year-olds on the team, and that's okay. It's just about them being at a developmental point where they don't get too caught up in the failure loop and some other things. Next question from Tina. Do you know where the state championship is going to be this year? I do not know yet. It's very likely going to be in the Seattle area. Last year we had it in Spanaway, but we'll very likely have it a little further north this year. We were trying to work something out with UW, but it looks like it's fallen through, so we're looking for a new venue right now, as a matter of fact. Let's see, another question from Tracy. We do not have a junior FLL, and there is some interest. Tracy, I'm not sure if there's a question there. Are you asking about putting a team together, a junior FLL team? Or do you need anything from me, or is it just a general point of interest? Looks like point of interest. Junior FLL is a great program. Okay. To the first questions. Gotcha. Okay, so junior FLL is great for 6 to 9-year-old kids, and so if you have those kids that want to do FLL but they're a little young, you can also do junior FLL team. They're really easy to do. There's going to be expos. There's going to be 3 of them this year, and they're going to span from now until we're doing one in November, one in March, and one in May, I think. So we're going to do a full junior FLL season this year with Willem's help. So anyway, they're really cool opportunities in junior FLL. So I was going through the FAQ a moment ago. Let's see if there's anything else that we talked about the judging process, but it's outlined here about the robot design is kind of we had a minute setup, 9-minute Q&A, and then in all judging sessions, the judges take like the last 5 minutes of a 15-minute block to do their notes and things. So generally, the kids will be in the room about 10 minutes, either setting up or doing their presentation or whatever. Let's see, typical robot competition process. We talked about this a little bit. I'll expand on it. Each match, each time your students run their robot on the table, is actually about 5 minutes long. They get a minute to set up on the table, get their robot pieces and attachments in place. Then we run the competition for 2.5 minutes, and then there's a 1.5-minute tear down and reset place where the kids take the robot back off the table. When the referee is done scoring the match, they do that on a sheet of paper. and the students have to sign it when the ref is done. In other words, acknowledging that the score that the ref has seen and decided on matches what the students see. We do this to try to avoid some conflict of somebody come back in 10 minutes and saying, no, you forgot to count that germ in the sink. We want the kids and the ref to be in agreement before they leave the table, because once we reset that, the data are gone. So anyway, that's the competitions side. Let's see what you bring. We covered that on one of the slides here about the consent forms and the team info sheets. Oh, this is a great one. I get this every year. Can we tape the presentations? And the answer is yes, usually. It's up to the people that are hosting the competition. We have so many of them now that some sites, if they've had trouble in the past or something, they won't do it. So in other words, coaches and mentors are allowed in the presentation and robot judging and core values room, but they have to be like a piece of furniture. There's no interaction allowed between the students and the coach during those sessions. And if the judges are all advised that they can boot you out of the room if you interfere. And I mean, there are no hand waving, no reminders, no running up and handing them a card. You have to pretend like you're not there, but you certainly can go in and videotape. Hints about the competition. I hope I've answered most of those questions for you now. There's all kinds of stuff about food and other things that will be specific to your event, and those will be available. The sites for the competitions you're assigned to will be available very soon. Here's a great FAQ question that, again, we get asked a lot. Usually the week before the competition, we get these panicked emails from coaches, and I sort of touched on this, but I'll say it again. If you don't have a robot running the week before the competition, and you don't have a project presentation fleshed out, you don't even know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. Come to the competition anyway. Even if you don't go to your judge sessions, and you guys just hang out in the pits, come to the competition. Very likely, and if you ask, then definitely you will get adopted by another team and you guys can figure something out. Even if you come to the competition and you just build a robot and try to get one mission running on the competition table, that's fine. The important thing is the kids see the end. They have this sense of closure, but they also understand what the expectations are for next year, so that if you guys come back, which we hope you do, they will know what to expect, and it won't be nearly the daunting task it may seem before you've seen it one time. So by all means, please come to the competition no matter what you've got cooking. And I guarantee when you go and you're going to feel like you're so far behind and everybody else is going to have everything polished up, they won't. There will be another 5 teams that look worse off than you, and it just, the key is to have that experience. You have to close the season by coming to the competition. So don't get freaked out and blow it off. You got to go. That's just a little bit of, you're going to get this email. You're going to get an email that looks a lot like this close to the end of the year. But make sure you get there. Regional awards that allow a team to participate. This is sort of actually this one's out of date. I got to fix this one. So as we talked about, championships are dependent on the judging, and you'll get selected. One team of the 3 winners from each subsection, the project, the robot, and the core values will get selected to go to championships. The state champ or the regional champions, the champions award, the robot performance award, both go for sure. So if you win robot performance, you have the highest score in the field, and/or you win the championship award, you'll get to go automatically. There's no deliberation on those. Is flash photography allowed? Yes. Is there a parade? Usually not. And then can teams use the old yellow RCX brick? A lot of schools have the extra RCX bricks, and this is the original robot, Lego robot body, and a lot of them have them. You can absolutely bring them to competition. They just don't allow as many sensors to get connected. They're technically inferior to the new white NXT bricks. So you can use them, but you'll be at a technical disadvantage. On that note, though, anything that Lego makes is usable in your robot. So if it's got a Lego stamp on it or came out of a Lego kit, you can use it. Okay, there's senior mentor calls. You may or may not know about those. You should be getting emails from FIRST about them, but you can listen to senior mentors talk about FLL. These are people that have a lot of experience in doing FLL, and they can be pretty useful. I believe, I don't, yeah, here's the site. I think the site links out of here. And then if the NXT brick stops working, call Lego. Don't call us, because Lego is entirely responsible for servicing NXT, but they're really helpful and they can take care of you. And then finally, NXT software licenses. This is a new addition this year. We talked about having 10 full seat licenses, or you can buy individual licenses from Lego Education, also buy site licenses. Okay, let's see. There was just a response to the first. Okay, a new question. I heard you can't use bionicle parts. I have not heard that. That is a new information to me. Oh, I think in the rules. Carol, let me get back to you on that one. I'll have to do some research on that, and I have not heard that. That is a new one. Let's see. So, I've just been dragging you guys through my FAQ, and now I'm at the end of that too. I'm sort of running out of things to tell you. I could chatter all day, and but I doubt you all want to sit and listen to that. Dave Bose, if you're still on, you and I can chat by email later about your licenses. I can help you with that. Anyone else, if you need help, you can always email me. Don't be offended if I pass you off to someone else, because we've got a number of committee people that are specialized in this sort of stuff. So what I was going to do is bring up my email address real quick. I should have had it at the end, or at least I used to. So here, let's do this. Let me end it. Just a moment, folks. I'm going to scroll back up to the top and show you my email address. Okay, so there's my email address at the bottom of the slide there. It's just kevin.reed@firstwa.org. That's KEVIN.REED. And if I don't know how to answer your question, I can shift you off to somebody that does. And I will send an email out about bionicle parts. That is a good one. I've not heard that. And then peruse the FirstWA website. Check those links out in the presentation. I'm going to get it posted in a few minutes here. That's pretty much all I've got. You do not have to stay unless you have more questions. Anyone else? Everybody's welcome. Thank you for the thank yous. I will stay on until the last person is left. So if you're waiting for something else to happen, it very likely will not, unless somebody else asks a question.